Look who's getting cozy with pipelines and federal handshakes. Scott Moe just gave Alberta's pipeline deal with Ottawa a thumbs up, and honestly? In Canadian politics, that's basically like your neighbor complimenting your lawnmower. Rare. Noteworthy. And definitely worth talking about. So here's the tea. Thursday morning rolls around, and Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe is out here playing cheerleader for a deal he's not even technically part of. Alberta and the federal government signed this memorandum of understanding, which is basically political speak for we promise to try really hard to work together. The goal? Build a pipeline to the west coast. And get this, Ottawa might even tweak that controversial tanker ban to make it happen. Yeah, you heard that right. The same federal government that's been about as enthusiastic about pipelines as a cat is about bath time might actually be warming up to the idea. Moe called it a positive announcement. Revolutionary, I know. But hold on, because there's actually some substance here. He's saying this could be the first step toward building what he calls a significant piece of infrastructure. And when a prairie premier starts talking infrastructure, you know money's about to enter the chat. We're talking wealth creation for Canadians, opening up export opportunities to places like India, and here's where it gets interesting for Saskatchewan, expanding production right in Moe's own backyard. Now before you start thinking this is some Kumbaya moment where everyone's holding hands and singing "Oh Canada," Moe threw in a little caveat. He said, and I quote, although not perfect. Which in politician speak translates to I've got some beef with parts of this, but I'm keeping my complaints vague enough that I can pivot later. Classic move. It's like when your friend says your new haircut is interesting. You know there's more to that story. But here's where it gets juicy. Moe's basically saying this MOU, which again is specific to Alberta, could be Saskatchewan's golden ticket too. Because guess what? Saskatchewan is also a major oil-producing province. Shocker, right? It's almost like the prairies have been sitting on black gold this whole time. Moe's looking at this Alberta deal like it's a homework assignment he can copy from, except instead of math equations, it's negotiations about where Canadian energy goes and how it gets there. The Premier went on record saying there are pieces in this memorandum that are going to impact how and where Saskatchewan's energy flows. Which makes sense when you think about it. These provinces aren't operating in vacuums. If Alberta gets a shiny new pipeline to ship oil to the west coast, Saskatchewan's sitting there like, hey, can we get in on this action? It's like when your sibling gets a new bike and suddenly you're real interested in cycling too. But wait, there's a plot twist. Remember that whole carbon tax thing? Yeah, Saskatchewan hasn't been playing by the rules. At the start of this fiscal year, they just straight up stopped collecting and remitting the industrial carbon tax. Full stop. No collection, no remittance, just radio silence. And their reasoning? They were banking on a change in government and federal tax policy after the election. Talk about putting all your chips on red and letting it ride. So let's connect these dots, shall we? Saskatchewan's been in timeout with Ottawa over carbon taxes, basically giving the federal government the cold shoulder and refusing to collect their money. Meanwhile, Alberta's over here cutting deals and getting memorandums signed. And now Moe's watching from the sidelines going, actually, maybe federal cooperation isn't the worst thing ever. Character development at its finest. The thing is, this whole situation is classic Canadian energy politics. You've got provinces that want to pump and ship oil, environmental policies that make that complicated, indigenous land rights in the mix, coastal communities with opinions, and a federal government trying to balance it all while not making everyone simultaneously angry. Spoiler alert, that last part never works. But here's why this matters beyond just provincial chest thumping. India was specifically mentioned as an export opportunity. Canada's been trying to diversify its energy exports forever because let's be real, being too dependent on selling to the United States is like having one friend who you sell all your lemonade to. Great when they're buying, awkward when they're not thirsty. Opening up Asian markets, particularly massive growing economies like India, could legitimately change the game for Canadian energy producers. And when Moe talks about expanding production in Saskatchewan, he's not just daydreaming. He's looking at real economic growth, jobs, and provincial revenue. Because here's the thing about oil-producing provinces, when oil's flowing and selling, their budgets look pretty. When it's not so pretty. Saskatchewan's economy doesn't run on good vibes and prairie sunsets, it runs on resources. The pipeline to the West Coast conversation has been going on longer than some people's marriages at this point. We've had protests, court battles, political promises made and broken, and enough environmental assessments to fill a small library. So the fact that Alberta and Ottawa actually signed something, even if it's just a memorandum of understanding, is kind of a big deal. It's movement in a file that's been stuck in molasses for years. Now, will this actually lead to a pipeline being built? That's the million-dollar question. Or more accurately, the multi-billion-dollar question, because these things aren't cheap. There are still regulatory hurdles, consultations with indigenous communities that need to happen properly, environmental reviews, and the small matter of actually, building the thing. But at least there's now a piece of paper with signatures that says both parties intend to try. The tanker ban adjustment is particularly spicy because that ban was put in place to protect BC's northern coast. Changing it is going to ruffle some serious feathers on the west coast. But if you're Alberta or Saskatchewan, you're looking at that ban like it's the final boss standing between you and export prosperity. Different perspectives, same country, infinite complications. What's fascinating here is watching Moe position Saskatchewan to benefit from Alberta's negotiations without actually being at the table. It's political strategy at its finest. Let Alberta do the heavy lifting with Ottawa, whatever storms come from that, and then Saskatchewan slides in so about those benefits you mentioned. Smart? Absolutely. A little opportunistic? Also yes. But that's politics, baby. The certainty Moe mentioned is huge too. Oil companies don't like uncertainty. They like knowing if they invest billions in expanding production, there's actually going to be a way to get that product to market. Right now, pipeline capacity is a legitimate bottleneck. So an agreement that creates even a path toward more capacity? That's the kind of thing that gets boardrooms excited and investment dollars flowing. So there you have it. Scott Moe's giving props to Alberta's federal deal while simultaneously figuring out how Saskatchewan can ride those coattails to prosperity. Meanwhile, Ottawa's apparently willing to play ball on pipelines, which is a plot twist nobody saw coming a few years ago. And somewhere, lawyers specializing in energy law are sharpening their pencils because there's going to be plenty of work ahead. If you're into Canadian politics, energy policy, or just watching provinces navigate federal relationships like it's a complex dance, smash that subscribe button because we're covering this stuff daily. Drop a comment telling me if you think this pipeline will actually get built or if this is just another round of political promises that'll evaporate. And hey, if you made it this far, you clearly care about what's happening in Canadian politics, so share this with someone who needs to catch up. More videos coming your way from Canadian Insights, because this country never stops being fascinating. Catch you in the next one.